Good morning. It is Monday, April 17th, 2023, and this is DC Signal to Noise. Since we last spoke, President Biden traveled to Ireland. Russia's comments left little hope for an extension of a grain deal. The source of the leaked Department of Justice documents was arrested. Winter came back, and the public was warned about the dangers of AI. All right. Welcome to you all. Glad that you're with us. I'm AgriTalk host Chip Flory. That is Pro Farmer Policy Analyst Jim Wiesemeyer. We think, unless AI has taken over in his office and
Well,
we're
that
just
may
seeing
be a
some sort of
plus.
fake.
Yeah, there's no danger in that, Chip.
How you doing,
I'm
buddy?
well, I'm in a good mood. It took a trip. Farmers like to get in the fields. I just like to meet with farmers, and I
Yeah.
did that late last week for several days in Southern Virginia, one of the most beautiful parts of this country. If you've never been to the Shenandoah Valley, go there. And those cattle producers were in a very good mood because of the current prices. But I also learned that I wasn't drinking the right bourbon, Chip. Bibb and Tucker I was introduced to, and I must admit it is good.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I'm glad that you continue to gain these cultural experiences out there that
Yes.
make life kind of full, worth living, right?
Well, it's always good to go out amongst them, as you well know, Chip.
Oh
And,
yeah.
one question I got that was very interesting because I hadn't had it from the audience was, is the news about all this border skirmish true, or is it just one channel on the news? Isn't that interesting? I had never heard it like that before, and I basically said we have an open border, and there's a lot of skullduggery going on there.
Yeah, go back and you know relook at the congressional hearings with Homeland
Mayorkas,
Security,
yes.
Mayorkas. Go back and look at those, and you know what? I'll throw this out there. Maybe there's only one channel that's willing to cover it. Maybe it's being, ignored by the other channels.
Yes, that's the drift that I gave there. But
Yeah,
the question was revealing.
yeah, yeah. What else did you learn down there, Jim?
Oh, well, as I kind of signaled on AgriTalk Friday, not a lot, but a number of, let's just say older veteran producers came up to me and talked. Is this the time? Am I nearing the time where this is an excellent opportunity to either phase down or get out of the industry? Because they know
Mhm.
when this cattle market turns, it turns ugly, Chip. So that was evident. But the positive attitude in that crowd was just so good to hear from their market research development of the excellent NCBA and then their state associations like Virginia, but also the younger people that I saw there. That's always refreshing to me.
Yeah, the question always comes up. If that experienced generation that you were mentioning at the beginning of your comments, if the experienced generation decides to get out of animal agriculture, who's left to come in behind them? You know what? We've been covering that issue. I've been covering it for 35 years. You've been covering it for 50 years, Jim.
Yeah, my first story at Don't Ag Service in '72 was entry and exit problems in
You
agriculture.
seriously?
Yes,
There
yes,
you go.
yeah,
There you go. So we've officially been covering it for 50 years.
yeah. It'll
Um,
if the profit motive is there, bingo. Yeah,
if there's money to be made, the younger generation will find a way of getting started
yeah.
and taking over. Now, does that mean that we'll have the same number
Yes.
of cattle producers out there as what we had 10 years ago? No way.
No, but
No way.
they're getting very efficient like every other
Yeah.
producer. And I did pick up a little more anxiety about not plant-based meat alternatives,
Yeah,
but
the so-called.
cell-based, Chip.
Yeah.
They are watching that and they're nervous about it, which again increases their goal to improve the tasteability of real meat.
Right. Right. Okay. Good morning, Melody. If you would like to participate in the conversation, there is a comments tab on the screen. Find that. Dialogue box will open up and you can type your question or your comment in there. Tanner just hit us with this. We haven't seen heifers go back to pasture. Cash market. Watch out when that happens. Boy, that's the cycle, Tanner. You got it, man.
Yes.
The drought has been so bad that it has knocked down our total cow calf numbers. And then just because there was no feed, the heifers were not being retained. Once the cow calf guy decides that it is time to rebuild a herd or even attempt to expand a herd, you take those females out of the slaughter mix, you drive your beef supply down one last time and your price up one last time. And I did a little, I let Google do the work for me on this one. But when you look at the high that we had back in 2014 and adjust it for inflation and move it forward, that high that we had back in 2014 around 170, 171, whatever it was, that's like 218, 220 bucks a hundredweight on fat cattle right now. So if you're going to look at it on an inflation adjusted rate, we've still got a little ways to run. So, okay. That was fun. That was a good discussion to kick things off. What did you get for a highlight from President Biden's trip to Ireland?
He needs rest. And it's just, I just did not like to see some of the developments, Chip. And, and that's really why he didn't go to other places, because his stamina just is not there. I totally understand it, being my age. But, during the Virginia meeting I went to, David Wasserman of the Cook Political Report gave a speech, and he had a number of questions on Biden. Why hasn't he announced yet? And there's some reasons for that.
Yeah.
But Dave said Biden may be waiting to see if former President Donald Trump implodes and another Republican challenger comes into the fore, because if that were to occur, he thinks Biden may not run, but he still gives 60% chance that Biden will enter that race.
Okay. There's been some movement on the GOP side for nominations, and I think some of the potential candidates are also waiting to see exactly how former President Trump handles his indictment and handles the charges and the coming trial and so on. And there's been some movement, but one name that you have brought up several times is one to watch. Senator Tim Scott looks like he's in.
Yes, and Pompeo, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, got out on Friday on a Fox News program. Tim Scott is really such an interesting potential challenger for the Republicans, for a candidate, I should say. Now, he and other Republicans are still having a hard time dealing with that third rail issue, Chip, on abortion. And even some Republicans are chastising themselves about that party has to come to grips with it, because it has already affected a number of House elections and Senate elections. And I don't think that's going to go away.
No, it will continue to be a hot button issue right through it. Well, because of the ripple of the 2022 elections, that was expected to be a huge win for the GOP, more of a ripple. And I think the abortion issue had something to do with that. The Democrats will make sure that it stays an issue right through the 2024 elections. There's no question about that. I want to hit this just briefly, and then we kind of joked about it at the start, but I know, Jim, that you've always been really curious about new technology as it comes on. And I remember you created an image with artificial intelligence for the 2022 election. It was a pig casting a vote.
Yes.
And it was all of, you were thinking about, I think, Proposition 12 at that time or something.
Yeah, Proposition 12. And I
Right.
still use it in my presentations.
Okay. Okay. So, what do you make about the concern being expressed about AI right now that it's already so good that a majority of people consuming information won't be able to tell if it's true or not?
Well, that's increasingly been the case even the last few years, even without AI, or maybe there was some AI floating around and we didn't know it, Chip. I have dabbled in it. I like what I see so far. I can understand the concerns. As with anything, I think you need parameters on that. But the biggest thing is, how do you put guardrails on it so it cannot direct the flow of, say, nuclear weapons? So
Hmm.
that's big time heady stuff, Chip.
Yeah.
But I don't think you're going to stop it. These calls to put a halt to any progress on AI, I think, are foolhardy. You think China, you think Russia, Iran, and North Korea is going to stop investing in this? No way.
Yeah. The ag community is getting more and more active. There's no question about it. There is a, there was, boy, yeah, no, we don't care. We can throw names around out here. It doesn't matter. FBN, Farmers Business Network, sent a letter out to its members
Hmm.
talking about Norm. Okay. Norm is going to be the next Hey Norm. What I've taken a picture of this disease on my plant. What is it? What do I need to do to treat it? So they are attempting to build a system that will shake up the crop consulting
Mm.
world is what they're attempting to do. So it's interesting.
Yeah, well, and they got a pretty good track record so far. But
Yeah.
I use an app for plants and trees, Chip. I just take a picture of it and it tells me what it is.
Yeah.
And what you're just saying, and on weeds, I just had a weed. I sent it to my lawn guy, and poof, it comes up right
Yeah.
away. Nutrien is another fertilizer company, of course, big. There's an excellent Barron story this week in their Friday. I think it's published Saturday. I think it's a must reading because they have, I don't know how many thousands of either analysts or agronomists on their staff. So they're going that way as well, Jeff.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's happening on the equipment side. There's some, the automation, uh, there's an ad out there that talks about a sprayer that's going to be working on its own and killing 100,000 weeds an hour. It's all very interesting in technology. Man, I just hope that guys like you and me can keep up and just to be part of the conversation.
Yeah, yeah. No,
You
I
know,
keep
I know.
about a third of my reading is in this area now,
Yeah.
as you can imagine, and
Yep.
also on the electric vehicles. And I didn't
Mhm.
have time to write it this morning on Pro Farmer, but the Washington Post, of all papers, had a really good article on should you buy an EV? If not, when? If so, how? And things like that. I need to send it to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Do that. Okay. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy says he's going to propose spending cuts to suspend the debt ceiling. What's the latest there?
Well, he'll be at, I think, the New York Exchange later today, this afternoon, I think. The key there is, Chip, not much is going to move in the U.S. Congress until we know how this debt limit battle is dealt with, whether or not there's an increase or a suspension. And until the Republicans offer a bona fide plan, the White House, including President Biden, says they will not negotiate on it. So that's the first step. The second one is, once they announce their plan, how thorough is it? And will there be enough Republican votes to actually pass it in the House, Chip? Because there won't be any Democrats to pass it. So that remains to be seen. But the Farm Bill is not really going to progress much at all until we have that issue settled. That's why I've been covering it a lot.
Mm-hmm. Are they going to find a way to make this happen?
The most sensible thing to do, and this town doesn't know that word usually, is for Democrats and Republicans, realistic, to get together, and they have the votes to come up with a compromise plan. Now, if that were to occur, that's very bad news for McCarthy, because those arch conservatives who finally relinquished and allowed him to become speaker will probably do him in. So that's the high stakes in this one, Chip.
All right. Before we move on, a couple of comments from readers on what on artificial intelligence. Melody says the AI Trump Musk interview was nearly perfect. Save the Trump inflection on the word China. We'll have to take a look at that.
Yeah,
and Gary says the article about the guy that diagnosed his dog's disease using AI while the vet diagnosed wrong is eye-opening. Yeah.
We're going to see more and more of that.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you, guys.
Wait a minute. We do have one from Tanner. Weeks ago, I brought to light that FSA is looking at providing first option loans. Any news on that front? What does that mean? Well, Vilsack and FSA is really looking at that loans on the total amount, equity issues, and things like that. Now, I will check out more on that, Tanner, but I will tell you this. In Virginia meeting that I went to and elsewhere, and there was a USDA official there, there's a growing farmer chatter about these loan, forgiveness, Chip. Of who is getting it and the amounts, and they're getting pretty hefty in the million plus arena. And there's a lot of farmer coffee talk on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Last week, members of Congress, both from the House and the Senate, sent a letter to EPA in support of higher renewable volume obligations, year-round availability of E15, and they. What's the status here, Jim? We're going to get the final rule, the final RVOs.
Well, it's interesting because EPA Administrator Michael Regan, who doesn't really have to testify before the House Ag Committee, I think in a positive way is doing so this Wednesday, Chip. Now, this town has a history, especially USDA Secretary Vilsack. Before or during their testimony, they unleash a lot of announcements. So it'll be curious Tuesday, Wednesday, what happens at EPA. But we have a series of issues, as you mentioned, the year-round E15 for 2023. They delayed it until 2024, so the push is there to accelerate it. We've got the proposed mandates for biofuels, especially the stakeholders in biodiesel and renewable diesel weren't happy with the original proposed mandates, and there's supposed to be a final rule by EPA no later than June 14th. So that's not too far away. Right. Then you have the SRAs, the RFA mandate end around. Growth Energy filed the suit against EPA for giving small refineries different ways of meeting those mandates. And of course, the waters of the U.S. rule will definitely come up to Regan. And then last but not least, last Wednesday's EPA's recent rule on tailpipe emissions. You think he's not going to get questions on that? Because that's from a regulatory approach, the Biden administration wants to have 2/3 of our, mostly of our auto sector cars, SUVs and pickups for model years 2027 to 2020 to 2032. They want 2/3 by 2032. And so where you only have about 10% EVs right now. Yes, on EVs.
Yeah. That's created a lot of conversation in the industry, not only the ag industry, but the auto industry, of whether or not that's even a realistic goal, if that is something that we can aim for. You go back and you look at some of the goals, some of the aspirations that have been put in front of the auto industry in the past. They don't have a very good track record of living up to some of those things that have been mandated by Congress or by presidents is what I really should say.
Yeah,
I
it
think
doesn't
about
mean they can't eventually meet them. Usually they're delayed by about a decade, Chip.
yeah,
So I
yeah,
think whatever year you hear, I'd add probably 10 years
yeah.
to it. That doesn't mean it's not coming. I think it is coming, and we don't even know whether it'll be batteries or hydrogen that's
Right.
doing these EVs. So
See,
there's a lot of technology to come out in the years ahead.
yeah, you know my stand on it. The current technology that's available, even the best technology that's available, is not good enough to allow that to happen.
No,
It just
although
isn't.
although the ones produced now are getting a lot better. A lot better.
Oh, yeah, and still not good enough. Still not good enough to hit the to satisfy the consumer demand and the consumer needs.
Yeah, but if I keep waiting, the clock
Yeah.
is ticking. So I'm probably going to take the plunge. But the problem is I can't get the EVs that I want. They're on a
Right.
waiting list. So there's a problem in and of itself.
Yep. Okay, Jim, I'm going to give you an acronym here. EGSFP. Mark wants to know if there's anything on the
I don't know, Mark.
SFP cost share program.
I know you don't hear this much from Washington people, but I'll check into it. Is that the environmental thing?
Let us know exactly
investment?
what that is. I was going to go to the Google machine real quick and check it out, but maybe Joe could do that for us and give us a heads up on what exactly that might be. Jim, Russia has certainly made it clear that it will not extend the grain export deal if it doesn't get some of the concessions that it wants.
Yes, and you had several developments Friday and then today. You had seeking some ends around, Chip. You had Ukraine is going to try to reopen the grain transit via Poland as a first step. But you had some countries said that they're going to stop those grain exports from Ukraine, Poland, Hungary, and now Slovakia, because it's hurting their grain farmers. So it's hit that level, Chip. So yeah, that's why I think you're going to see more volatility in that grain market.
Right. Okay. The EGSFP, Emergency Grain Storage Facility Assistance Program. Emergency Grain Storage Facility Assistance Program.
I'll check into it.
Okay. All right. Give me some reaction to the leaked documents and the arrest of the source of those documents.
Oh my goodness. The later news is that the Wall Street Journal, I think, was the first report to say that an online account overseen by a former U.S. Navy technician helped spread those alleged leaked documents, Chip. And then that purported Russian blogger going by Donbass Girl is on the network of pro-Kremlin social media. But I will tell you, when our Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, said that there wasn't much concern about this, that's just not accurate. Every other person I've seen as an analyst, farmer defense officials, behind the scenes people saying this was a major leak that will hurt the United States and our allies.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, let's move on. You mentioned this. You mentioned WOTUS earlier. Did you get into the details of the House vote? I think it's coming tomorrow in an effort to override the presidential veto.
Yes, and it won't clear the 2/3 needed. Okay, but it's more of a signal vote, Chip, and clearly Lawmakers from both political parties said, maybe EPA should have waited rather than in December or January releasing their revised definition of WOTUS. They should have waited for the Supreme Court ruling. That's coming up. Now on ProFarmer.com, I go through the background of how long does it usually take to get a Supreme Court ruling after they have their opening arguments and things like that.
Yeah.
Controversial cases usually are later rather than sooner. Sometimes they usually announce their rulings on Mondays, but that doesn't mean they can announce them any other day, which they can. There were some reports that the WOTUS was coming Friday, and as usual, some of these reports are wrong, and it was.
Yeah, absolutely. We're just gonna have to wait for that. Okay. USDA Secretary Tom Vilsack, he's going to be gone for a week to Asia. What's going on?
Well, on the ag ministers, the group of 7 or whatever, are more, and that's always good when they confer, look at errant policies or consistent policies that they can do in the trade policy arena. Then he's going to several countries. I think the Philippines. I wrote about it over the weekend. It seems like forever now. Where he will discuss with officials. So I don't ever criticize a USDA secretary from traveling abroad, because then that at least he can talk, hopefully, market access.
Right. There's you and I talk about trade and trade agreements all the time. China has been very aggressive here lately, going out and linking these bilateral trade agreements and trying to get things locked up. USDA Undersecretary for Trade and Foreign Agriculture Affairs, Alexis Taylor. She's going to Amsterdam, right?
Yeah, Amsterdam. She'll be in the Netherlands April 17th to the 19th, and that's the first ever agribusiness trade mission to the region. That surprised me. I would have thought there would have been that by now. And there's going to be a delegation of more than 50 businesses, the trade associations, and state government leaders. And so we have a growing number of U.S. farm products going to the Netherlands, Denmark, Finland, Iceland, Norway, and other countries. Of note, on Wednesday, she's going to hold a media teleconference to highlight results. So we could get some news out of that, Chip.
Very good. Very good. Do we need to discuss any more about the tailpipe emission standards that were announced it was the middle of last week, I think. Because you covered it. You talked about how the end goal. We had Representative Randy Feenster from 4th District of Iowa on the free-for-all on Friday. And I said, kind of a hidden agenda in there, and he was laughing at me for calling it a hidden agenda against the internal combustion engine.
Chip, I think if the truth is known on this, this is a John Kerry, former Secretary of State, now whatever his title is, climate czar or whatever. This is John Kerry's master plan that he had laid out several years ago. And they're trying to mandate this. And, Americans don't like mandates historically. I don't care whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. But that's the way they're going on this one. And, of course, there's going to be pushback.
Right. Here's an interesting one. From D Jensen. He says, I find it interesting when innovation replaces blue-collar jobs, it is necessary for global progress. But when AI comes for white-collar jobs, we have to stop it because it might exterminate humanity. I don't know. I've never had a computer replace my toilet yet.
Yeah, but you don't even have a bidet.
No.
You're not up to technology.
That kind of stuff makes me nervous.
It's a fair point. I think that's a fair point. What I've seen so far on this AI is, and I've gone through the different updates, Chip. That's always interesting to go through. It's impressive. Accurate all the time? No, you got to double, triple check, but it is very helpful.
Okay, I will throw this in. What concerns me the most is when AI is replacing education. If you can figure out how to ask the right question, you can get a term paper.
Yeah, and then I know they're already underway to how to determine uh, um, if a term paper
Right.
like in college has been written by AI. When I was in college, a side job I had was writing papers for some other students because I
Huh?
liked research. Oh yeah, but some professors got used to my type of writing and research. So this is just an ancient way of that same issue, Chip, to tell you the
Yep.
truth. You
Yep. Yeah. Well, no. Yeah, but the thing is, nobody has ever accused you of having artificial intelligence, Jim.
know?
It's all natural.
I just
Um,
think we're going through in agriculture, we're going through an unbelievable new industrial revolution. We've talked about that before, but it's just
yeah.
beginning.
Yeah. You know what? We need to look at wrapping things up real quick. You've got Mitch McConnell coming back to the Senate this week. You've got John Fetterman coming back to the Senate. What about Feinstein?
She's coming back. Some Democrats want her just to resign, but she has relinquished her very powerful post on the Intelligence Committee. So
Okay.
that's a dicey issue, Chip, that you
Yeah.
should think a lawmaker should understand. We have a beige book Wednesday, I think,
Okay.
from the Fed. Why is that important? That'll be another inkling of whether or not the prior bank quote crisis, although limited that as was, is over. I don't think it is,
Right.
but you have a number of smaller banks reporting their earnings this week, so that's going to be of high interest in the overall market. And then, of course, you have the Fed coming up with their next interest rate setting meeting, May the 2nd and 3rd, with the vast majority thinking it'll be another 25 basis points hike. And then that's it for a while. It could be many months, could be until the end of the year that they'll just sit on that.
Yep. All right. Melody, Brett, Jim will take out or check out your questions, your comments, and react to that this week on profarmer.com. And because we've got to wrap it up. And I got to say this, Jim, I hope you'll be okay tomorrow.
What's that?
Well, happy tax day. I know that this is one of those days every year that I think about you. I hope for you. I pray for you, Jim.
I have 4 times a year because I do quarterly, so I cry 4 times a year. And at the supermarkets, when they ask you if you want to round up,
Yeah.
when a nanosecond I say no.
No.
You want to see how many taxes I pay, and they look at me.
All right. All right. Today on AgriTalk, we've got Machinery Pete and Senator Chuck Grassley from Iowa on the show this afternoon. Pat Von Tersch, he is with Professional Ag Marketing and a new voice. Have a great week, everybody. Keep watching for those signals.